Welcome to the Colin Coyle podcast. I do interviews sometimes with all of my closest friends. And today, I'm lucky enough to be talking to Burlington County's own writer-director, Thomas Freeman Jr. Thank you for joining me.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Tell people a little bit about you as a person, because there's not a lot of writer and directors in Burlington County, New Jersey.
Right. I'm a father of 5 children. So yeah.
That's a lot of kids.
Yeah, a lot of kids.
Now, are you supporting a family as the writer and director?
Yes, primarily, and of course the mother. This has been great.
She's coming in handy.
Yeah, coming in handy. Her part. But yeah.
So give me your story. So you born in Burlington County?
Yes. Actually, I was born in Camden County. I was born in Pennsauken. Then I moved to Edgewater Park, New Jersey, which is in Burlington County, small town.
Now, how did the movie thing come? Was it something you were always interested in? Anyone in the family?
I was interested in telling stories and writing and movies. I had a Fisher-Price movie camera.
That's the kitchen, the toy kitchen sets that they make for kids and stuff.
But these actually recorded, and then they had wires what are they called? The red white. Plug it in, and you could watch it on the TV from the camera. So that was my first. Your
Super 8 movies, basically, right?
Right. And then when I went to college, fast forward years later.
Where'd you go to college?
Fairleigh Dickinson.
Okay, I only know of them because of the basketball tournament.
Right, yeah.
That's the only time I hear that name.
We were real good. When I was there, actually, we made the NCAA tournament.
There you go.
I played UConn that year.
So you're at Fairleigh Dickinson, and your plan is to be a film major?
No, actually, I was more interested in music, but somebody told me a story about Camden, which is where my parents were from, and it was crazy. I really didn't believe them, and 2 years later, the story came out, and it was about the mayor, Milan, at the time, who was indicted with a drug ring, and I was like, this is a movie, and that's the first time I said, I really want to make a movie, I gotta make this movie.
Really? So the first time that you were I need to tell stories was about a politician, corruption?
Yeah.
Really? That's quite a jump from the Fisher-Price camera to now that the mayor has been kicked out, I have to jump into action.
Well, it was a personal story because the friend that told me about it passed away.
Okay.
And I didn't really believe him, and I was like, oh, you're telling the truth.
Yeah, bold claim, right?
Right. So now I'm following it in the paper, and I'm reading the papers, and I'm watching the news, and I'm writing the outline, and I'm like, this is a movie. But I think because it's Camden and it's not, New York or Los Angeles, I'm like, I can get access to this story before Hollywood.
That's an interesting way of looking at it, because to the person looking on the outside, you don't think of Burlington or as the film capital of the world.
Right.
But you're looking at it as this is actually a unique position for me to be in because I can get closer to this thing.
Right. So that's how that went, and I tried to get somebody to write the script, and couldn't find anybody, and I ended up writing it as an urban fiction novel. They were really popular at the time.
I love urban fiction novels.
Yeah. So I wrote it as an urban fiction novel. I was traveling back and forth to New York at the time, and I was reading these novels on my train ride. And I was like, okay, the style of writing is something I could do because it doesn't seem... it just seems natural.
So while you're at Fairleigh Dickinson, what are you majoring in at the time?
Communications.
Okay, so this kind of falls under what you're working on,
Right,
journalism, the whole pursuit of story.
Right.
But the writing of the script was just something you ended up doing because no one could do it better?
Yeah, out of necessity, nobody else could do it, and I wrote the book, and people were saying, that should be a movie. So I'm like, okay, you guys see what I see. So eventually I just taught myself and start taking little screenwriting classes and taught
Now, do you think there's a value in any class for film, because I also am a digital media major, I'm a film major. Easily one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made in my short life thus far.
Yes.
But it was fun. So it's I'm kind of torn on I like movies, I like stories, but is there an actual practical value you think still for people to do them?
That's a catch-22. If you're going to a traditional in-classroom, I think the connections, the interactions, you're in the, classes with 20 people, and any of these people could be somebody that could possibly collaborate or hire you.
That's true, statistically. Yeah.
But If I had to go back, yeah, you spend $100,000 in film school, you better off shooting to independent movies.
Yeah, buying a camera.
Right. Yeah.
Instead of spending all that money
yeah.
on learning how to not even use the
Right.
camera.
Yeah, if I could go back, because I ended up going to film school later.
Okay.
If I could, no knock to my film school, because I love Los Angeles Film School and Full Sail.
So you went to the Los Angeles Film School, because that's
Right.
like, if people don't know, it's like an actual institution in
Right.
Burbank with a building dedicated to just
Film,
this.
right.
Now, what made you do that? Because that's like, you have to be into this.
I felt like things weren't progressing at the rate that I wanted it to.
Because of the location, or the story?
Mainly
or...
location, finding financing for films, and it was taking way too long for projects to get done. I was working on projects for years before they saw the light of day. So I wasn't able to get a momentum that I wanted. And really, I was like, I can go to film school. They're going to give me all the equipment.
Now, how old are you at this time?
I'm 35.
Okay, so you're an adult
yeah,
person. You're not
adult
like
person,
a kid
yeah.
just trying a thing.
Right, right.
So how did you make that work as an adult with like adult lives to live?
That's to credit to my wife and
Lovely.
yeah. And I went online, so it made it a little more flexible where I
You
could
can
still
do that.
Yeah, you can.
So
do
then,
that
what are the
now.
classes like? Story development, or?
Yeah, so you take everything. You take even film editing. You take everything, and there's like forums, like Google Meet type things. And so it's pretty much just like being there, except I think the interaction with the other students is not definitely.
Yeah, sure,
on that
that's
level.
lacking.
Yeah. But I learned a lot, and I got some equipment, and I was able to use that equipment to shoot a documentary. So I felt like it was productive.
And it seems like everything that you wanted to do, even if it stalled, it eventually kind of happened relatively quick, right?
Yeah.
Because any story or project you've had, it ended up coming to fruition. Because something with movies is like everyone has a script, and then they never get made.
Yeah, definitely. What's interesting enough is that first script that I wrote that got me interested still hasn't been made.
Well, that's,
I've made
probably...
other scripts, but not that one yet. But I'm looking to hopefully shoot that.
So did you ever go to the LA Film School in person, or was it all online?
Yeah, I did go in person. They'll let you like kind of toggle. So I would go to LA and go to a class.
What was that experience like the first time? Coming from Burlington, or Camden County, and then you're in Burbank, near Warner Brothers.
You know what's funny is in between living in Edgewater Park, I moved to Anaheim, California.
Oh, wow.
So my school was literally, it was Walt Disney School, so like I was kind of like, I kind of saw that at a young age, and it was in the back of my mind as I look back.
Okay, so it wasn't like you were just movies and go to California. You had some familiarity with it.
Right.
Okay.
And my father lived in California, still lives in California to this
Do you have
day.
anything to do with entertainment?
No, but actually he was a cameraman.
Oh,
in
wow.
his younger years, he was a cameraman for like Channel 12 in New Jersey, though. But once he went to California, interesting enough.
That's cool. So it was there, kind of.
Yeah.
And what did your mom do?
My mom is like a job developer, works as a job developer. She worked in insurance when I was growing up.
That's
But
exciting.
now she works, right. So, and she's also written books, and so, my grandmother
So, like,
wrote
growing up,
stories.
you were in an environment that very valued education a lot, like put an
Definitely,
emphasis on it.
Definitely reading. My grandmother had a book open on her nightstand my whole life.
I think everyone's grandparents are the only
Right.
people left reading.
Right,
I haven't
right.
seen regular people read books. You have to be over 65 now.
Yeah, I listen to Audible.
Yeah, dude, podcasting and audiobooks changed it.
Yeah, geez.
So, how about your siblings? What do they do? And any of them follow a similar path?
My younger brother, my middle brother is, he's a teacher, but he also is an artist. He teaches art, and he's a writer, screenwriter also.
My gosh.
Yeah, so he writes bigger screenplays than me. I write independent, like I can get the financing.
You can get it made. That's the
He
difference,
writes
right?
like, I got to sell this.
Has he sold anything?
No, he had an interest in one project. He had a lot of interest around it, but he hasn't sold. He hasn't been able to sell it. He optioned it for a little while, but got the rights back.
Now, when you say like interest, like what does that really mean? Because there's people who write scripts, but then you don't know what to do with them. You seem to actually know what you do next.
Well, IMDb was a major thing for me, and I'm like, oh, I can just call
find
these
the person.
people.
Yeah.
And some of these people have direct email, direct phone numbers, and it was just cold calls. And sometimes you luck up. I talked to the original writer of New Jack City, just
Oh,
on
wow.
a whim, and hit him and said, "Listen, I have the story in Camden." And he was like, "Oh, I'm familiar with Camden." And he read my script. So the first script,
Wow.
now I got validation from one of the writers that wrote. So I'm like, okay, I'm on to something. So my brother was doing the same thing with like producers from The Wedding Crashers and big movies that were
Wedding
like,
Crashers is truly my favorite movie of
right.
all time. It should be on the U.S. citizenship test.
My brother would agree with you.
All
And,
right, good.
he was
Smart man.
he was just like, I love it. I'm tied up with projects, but circle back. And my brother's not probably aggressive as me, so, but he's had Batman producers like with big movies that have been interested in
So a lot of this really legitimately comes down to just asking.
just
Finding
asking.
a cell phone or an email.
Yeah, and location does help because somebody might say, "Are you available for lunch?" Or so if you're in LA, it makes it 10 times better.
But like even that, do you really think like being in LA is that necessary still?
It's not as necessary as it once was. And I know people say things like, well, they're filming in Atlanta, they're filming in New Jersey.
Yeah, you hear Atlanta is like the big one, no?
The funny thing is, a lot of those deals are still being made in LA. And a lot of
Okay.
those top roles are still being cast from LA, and then they're working with companies in Atlanta that do the production. So to like sell the script or to get cast sometimes, it's still like LA is still kind of
Yeah, versus, New Jersey.
Right.
Now,
right.
what made you like come back to New Jersey full time and be like, I'm setting up shop and I'm going to be a filmmaker here?
One of the things was the tax credit. So now New Jersey has one of the best tax programs. So it's like when you're going after independent financing, you're saying, this is a good way to sell somebody on financing a movie. Listen,
So, like, if a tax credit exists, just like so people understand,
Right.
you as the writer who wants to get it made would find in investors, and part of your pitch would be we're shooting where there's a tax credit?
right.
Okay.
So I'm going to say New Jersey has a 30% tax credit. Southern New Jersey, where I live, has a 5% additional tax credit.
Wow.
And if you use minority in a above the line position, like a director, like myself, if I'm going to be pitching.
You're a minority.
That's what they tell me.
How about that?
Cut.
Cut? No, I'm just kidding.
That's that's an extra 2%.
Oh, so you
So
can
now
get up
we're
to
at
like 40%?
Yeah, we're at 37% now.
Wow.
So on $1 million project, they could get a bond for $370,000 right off the top. So to an
Wow.
investor, that's great.
Now, like, you hear stories of people needing investors in movies as, like, I go and find this Russian oligarch or I go find this mob, like, guy.
Right.
Is that real? Are those actually the people in the real world who want to pay for movies?
The funny thing is, when I first started taking classes, somebody told me the main financiers of independent films are dentists.
Dentists?
Dentists.
Why?
Because they make a lot of money and they have a boring job.
That's it. That's the only...
That's the
Wow.
twist.
I mean, I guess that makes sense, but, like,
So
it's kind of anticlimactic, right?
yeah. That's what he was like. There's no secret to find investors. Start with the people that you know that have money. And
That is pretty simple when you put it that way.
And it's like, or people that would be interested in telling the story that you're trying to tell. That might have money.
But that's harder to find, right? I think more people care about money than the story.
Right. But sometimes, like, if it's, say, a football story and you know a football player and you're like,
Sure,
he would love
yeah.
this story. I know I might not be able to sell him just on the movie thing, but I could sell him on this particular story.
And if there's someone who played it professionally, odds are they have money.
Exactly.
So it really can be that simple.
Right.
Wow.
So
Because a lot of this seems like it's like so far away for anyone who has any interest in it. Like, I could never actually get past writing the script. But
Right.
turns out it's actually very doable,
Very
in like
doable.
New Jersey.
Right. And once you get, some your feet planted, I feel like, things just fall into place. And,
What's some of your favorite movies?
my favorite movie is Dead Presidents, which
Wow,
I have
that's
an
convenient.
homage to the movie in my T-shirt right here. But Dead Presidents was one of my favorite movies. Lord of the War with Nicolas Cage.
I love Nicolas Cage. So what are your thoughts on him? Because this is something we should settle as humanity. Is he terrible or is he a genius?
Oh no, definitely a genius.
All right, good. I agree with you as well. But some people would argue if you just spent the better part of 3 decades screaming at random levels in movies, you might accidentally win an Oscar too.
Yeah, But I mean, Face Off. I mean, there's been
Con Air,
Con Air. There's been like
National Treasure 1 and
shit.
2.
Oh man. Yeah.
Oh,
Definitely part one.
okay, all right. I was
Part
gonna
one.
say you don't like National
Yeah,
Treasure.
we're part one,
I
definitely.
mean, it's a documentary about the country.
But yeah, so I feel like his range, and he does play crazy
Yeah.
pretty well.
You don't see a lot of like movie stars anymore. Everything now is very niche. Like everyone's
Yeah.
like a new actor.
Right.
There aren't really like you got Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, right?
The landscape has changed so much. I was on the phone with some investors, and they were, I'm not gonna put any names,
No,
but
please name drop.
the names of the big actors that were being mentioned, they're saying like, and these are people that we would call iconic. They're saying like, they're not going to bring you a return on what they would cost anymore.
Now, is that like good for people who want, like you, who want to make movies? Is it good that there seems to be this tonal shift in like the structure of the whole system, or is it bad because there's just less money involved now?
Yeah, that's the catch-22.
Yeah.
It's easier to get in, but the ceiling is a lot lower than it used to be.
And that's just what, because of streaming and less people going to theaters?
Yeah, less theaters. So like blockbuster movies are fewer and far between, which means that these bigger companies are going to have to start, if nothing else, buying smaller companies that do these niche.
Well, you see that with like HBO and Discovery.
Right.
Like now they after the merger, and the guy who runs it, I still don't think he really knows what his plan is.
Right.
Because they have shot entire movies and just scrapped them for tax credits.
Yeah.
So like the idea of like market researching your project down to
Right.
like the demographics seems like you're kind of taking away the whole magic, quote unquote, of the whole movie thing.
Yeah. That's where art and business kind of collide because, it's a like you said, they're scrapping whole projects for tax credits.
Yeah. And it's just like, I don't know, it's kind of disappointing to think like, there's a cool movie coming out, I'm going to be interested in seeing it, and then Batgirl gets canceled. Like,
Right.
because they made it because they found like 16-year-olds in the Bronx at 12 p.m. are very interested in Batgirl.
Right.
And then they make it all, and then that same test was like, well, now they don't care anymore. So it's like,
Right.
well, who are we listening to when we're making this stuff?
Yeah, and I think there's so much concentration on getting that age group, that that demographic that's always powered things, and their attention span because of the internet is.
Now, as a writer, do you take that information and you have that in your head when you're writing a story, like who it's for, or are you just telling the story?
Nah, definitely. I definitely pre-think like who would be interested in this.
Because there's definitely two camps on that, right? Like servicing the story or kind of being more intelligent and making sure someone wants to hear the story.
Right. Because business-wise, that's the business and the art part again. There could be a story that you really want to tell, but it's like, do people really want to hear it? And are you going to be able to reach those people? But that's where the niche markets come. I think every story has an audience, but it's just how do you reach
Well,
it?
maybe not every story.
Almost.
I mean, there's a few. There's plenty of stories that are boring.
Yeah, but
Like
there's
half
people,
of Nicolas Cage's filmography.
Yeah, and there's probably people that like those boring stories though.
Yeah, like Lord of War. What was the one where he was like he sold weapons? Or The Wicker Man. That was it. Did you ever see that?
Oh, I never saw that.
Oh man, dude, the entire movie,
Right.
expressionless face, just selling weapons to whoever needs them. That's it. He just boardroom meeting selling guns.
Yeah.
Stories can get off top.
Yeah.
So, what do you have working on right now?
I'm working on a docu-series called 848, The Criminalization of America. It's about...
Sounds like a light story, upbeat.
Yeah, so it's about the 848, which is it's a criminal code for a federal drug charge.
Something like police would say on like walkie-talkies? Or...
Something like if you were going to court and they're reading off your charge, they would say 848 CCE, continual
Some gangster shit.
criminal crimes. Yeah.
All right.
It's really comparable to the RICO.
Okay.
But
yeah.
the RICO could be any array of charges, array of things that could make it a RICO. 848 is strictly drugs.
Now, how did you get involved in this?
It's funny, I was doing another project just about like, some gangster shit like you were saying. And I was pitching it to a producer and she said, "What's the hook?" And I had to think and I was, like, what are you talking about a little bit? I knew what she was talking about, but it was just kind of like threw me off. And then later that day I got a call from one of the guys that I was doing a story on and he was telling me how he was trying to get back in court because there was a new law and he was trying to get out of prison. And I got an email from another guy who I written the story on 10 years prior. He was supposed to get out of prison because the laws changed, but he was still in prison.
Why?
And, because there were certain loopholes in these changes where everybody couldn't get out. So even
I don't mean to break any news to anybody, but I think the privately owned prison system doesn't work.
Right, yeah.
Am I stepping out on a ledge here?
It's crazy, and then there's things like these loopholes where Obama passed the law and Trump furthered the law and made it retroactive. Both great things, but there's still certain people that get caught in these little
Fall through the
loopholes.
crack. And then
Yeah.
you see on the news like some grandma with glaucoma's doing 20 years.
Right. So, and then some of these are for weed charges. So life. We feel like life in prison for a non-violent drug charge is too long.
I would agree. It's actually indefinite.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and these people have spent 30 years in prison already. So that shifted. I said, this is the hook. We're trying to get these guys that spent 30 years in prison, trying to get them
So
home.
would you say this project's more something like you just passionately care about versus like a story that you found interesting?
Definitely. This definitely was like a passion project. Definitely something I was passionate about, and dealing with two people that I knew personally made it even more,
Close to home.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Now, how far into is the script done? How exactly does the process work for you?
So with this, it's a docu-series. We shot the pilot, and we're going to have a premiere probably at the end of this year for the pilot.
Awesome.
Yeah, and try to, shop it to some networks to hopefully get funded to finish the series.
Cool.
So that's the plan.
Do you have anyone like noteworthy in it? Anyone would people recognize?
We have the real Rick Ross, so not the rapper,
Really?
but yeah, the real Rick Ross.
Now, he was the guy that like helped traffic cocaine into Compton for the government,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And I only said that like I didn't know, so it sounds like I have plausible deniability.
Right. So, and if you're familiar with the show Snowfall on FX,
Yeah.
loosely based on his life.
What was the real Rick Ross like?
He was a family man, a tennis lover,
A selfless lover, a
Yeah,
family
he's like,
man.
I got to take my kids to tennis practice. So it was,
Really?
it just shows the change in people, and it also shows that everybody that's painted as a gangster is not necessarily a gangster.
Sure, yeah.
It's just opportunity.
Yeah, like me.
It was an illegal opportunity, but at the time in the 80s and growing up in some of these neighborhoods, people saw it as, it's just like you're living in poverty, and then there's $1 million opportunity right
Well,
now.
and not only is it like there's an opportunity that's easy to take, the government put the opportunity there.
right,
It's
right,
like it's
right.
entrapment more than
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
shortcut thinking.
Yeah. So it was interesting. He told me during the interview that the judge said, you need to study the laws of entrapment. So imagine this sentencing judge sentence you to life in prison, but telling you at the same time that you need to look into entrapment.
Oh my goodness.
And that's exactly
That's
how
insane.
that's how he
And
got out of
how
prison.
long did you get to like talk with him? Because that's talk about a guy who knows some stuff.
Right. We interviewed him for a few hours. We interviewed him for maybe an hour, but just talked for a few hours.
Now, did he tell you anything when you were just talking, not interviewing, where you're like, oh, this is the real shit?
Yeah.
And will you tell me now?
Just even like how, like you said, the government and him not knowing at the time, him just thinking, I'll just have this guy that's selling me drugs, and, the guy Gary.
Now,
Webb.
was he like an actual agent of some department, or was he just a drug dealer the government found?
Yeah, he wasn't even a drug dealer. That's the crazy thing. He kind of just stumbled onto a guy that was like, you could take this to your neighborhood and make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And he was, it's like when you hear a song, you never heard, somebody tells you about a song, you're like, I've never heard it, and then it's everywhere. So it's
Only
like,
that with crack cocaine? Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So now it's like, wow, I can make money from
Now,
this.
how does he feel about like these people that fell through the cracks, like we said, who are on the wrong end of like a loophole?
He had great things to say. He was saying, using himself as an example, he was saying like these guys ran, the drug equivalent of Fortune 500 companies. So to be able to run these kind of enterprises, they're smart guys. He was like, and I love to help, some of them when they get out. Because
Kind of surprised they haven't killed him.
I think now it's like the story's out. Like,
That's
okay,
true. I guess you hit a
it's,
level where you
you
kind of
know,
can't be killed because it's like
like
Alex Jones or someone.
Yeah, it's like it's over. We okay, you caught it. It's, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, sorry about
in the
that.
beginning, you know, Gary Webb, the guy who kind of broke
Yeah.
the story, you know, committed suicide by shooting himself twice in the head.
Well, you know, if you missed the first time,
Like so,
you know, a lot of people shoot themselves twice in the head.
right? You know, so
He was a bad shot.
at that time, yeah, that was a little taboo to talk about. But
And then like Barry Seal, I'm sure he was
Right.
familiar with him, probably
Right.
knew him at some point.
right, exactly.
Now, are you ever like nervous being around topics or people like this?
It wasn't until one time I was at a family cookout and my cousin's boyfriend was like, "You didn't get shot yet?"
Yeah,
And I was like,
it like dawned on you, like, wait a
"Yeah,
minute,
like, hold up, maybe I am around."
you're
some
poking where you
people."
shouldn't be.
Yeah, but only one time actively doing an interview or something that I, you know, we had to pick these two guys up to go do an interview and you know, I could see that they were on drugs and like, you know, they're moving around in the back
Wow,
seat.
but they made
and it's
it
like,
to get picked up.
yeah, I'm like, oh, what's going on? So that was the one time I got kind of nervous. Then the guy gets out the car, he lifts up his shirt, and he's telling the guy in the front seat, like, I'll murder anybody for you. And I'm like, oh.
That's good to know. Yeah, I mean, I don't want some half-assed crackhead. Like, I mean, do it or don't.
So
But you really like are comfortable being around these like intense-ish types of topics.
Yeah, yeah, because most of the time, like I said, I find that the guys that I've interviewed are not necessarily the violent guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we did interview Glaze.
Sure.
And that was a different subject. But,
Yeah, that I'm not going to talk about at all. And that guy nearly made me poop myself.
So, but for the most part, I'm interviewing guys that were businessmen, just on the wrong side.
Who can be some of the most crazy, sadistic, sociopathic people ever. Much more than a gangster.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true too. That is true.
I mean, if you have a lot of money and a suit, I think there's more reason to be worried. You can do more damage, I would think.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
Definitely. But in addition to that, we did a family movie just to show that we could do, you know,
Just
something
to
on the other side.
lighten the mood a little bit.
Right.
What was the family movie?
It's called Uncle Rufus Last Request.
That sounds like a nice Christmas. It doesn't end with Uncle Rufus dead, does it? Not to ruin it, sorry.
But yeah, so we did that with Omar Gooding and Michael Collier and Bruce Bruce. And
Bruce was in it?
Yeah.
I love Bruce so much.
Yeah.
I really do. And I don't even know why, to be honest. Did you ever see, you know Mark Maron, the comedian?
Yes.
Did you ever see an episode of a show where he had Bruce on?
No.
And they do a podcast, and someone in Bruce's entourage, Mark Maron, falsely believes stole his laptop. So then he has to go over to Bruce's house and very politely, without bringing up race at all, ask if someone in his entourage stole his laptop. It's one of the funniest episodes of television I've ever seen.
Yeah, I have to check that out. That sounds funny.
What was it like working with him?
Oh, he was funny all day. Like everything he said was funny. It was just like it was a great experience. He was a real humble guy, real down to earth.
So having like worked on stuff that involves the government and drug trafficking and stuff that involves the holidays and Uncle Rufus, what's like the where are you most comfortable like story-wise and genre?
Definitely drama.
Really?
I like real drama. You know, I just like. There's so many real stories that it's like you really don't have to make things up.
I'm fully on board with you. I don't like things with dragons,
Right.
swords. I like movies where people have jobs.
Right.
That's generally like my line. Like
Right.
if someone has a job in this movie, I'll watch it. If there's a
Right.
dragon, you can't do it.
Right. Yeah. I'm pretty much the same way.
Did you watch Game of Thrones?
I did watch Game of Thrones.
Did you like it?
I loved it.
All
I
right,
loved
good.
it.
I haven't, so I can't contribute much.
Right.
I just always thought like it was weird how everyone was like, it's great. There's sword fighting, dragons, incest, murder, like all of the worst things imaginable
Right.
seem to like be appealing to people now.
Well, I'm a big fan of what they call swords and sandals movies.
Okay.
Like 300.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going with a
Spartacus
gay thing.
Nah.
It sounded very gay. I don't know.
Right. That's what
Actually, 300 is very gay.
Yeah.
It's a great movie though. But yeah.
Troy, you know, so
Troy's good.
I went into Game of Thrones on that angle. So
Okay.
when I first saw like the Iceman and the dragons, I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, this is
But
getting ridiculous.
the story had me in so much that it was like, it was too, I was in
Yeah.
too deep. It was in too
Yeah, like, don't worry about the dragons, man. This
Yeah.
is so great. There's rape and incest
right?
instead. Yeah. No.
And who knows? It could have been dragons at one point.
Well, there definitely were dragons at one point. Because, like, why else would every culture around the world have
Same.
similar stories about them without ever having interacted with one another?
Exactly.
There
That's-
aren't Chinese and Spanish dragons.
Right, right.
So
And
that's
the
weird.
same thing I say about dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs are still alive
What do you
today.
take with dinosaurs?
My take on them?
Yeah, do you believe dinosaurs
I mean,
were
I
here with
believe
humans?
I believe in them.
Do you think they were here with humans at the same time?
Here's the deal. Yes,
Me too.
but it's going on right now.
Elaborate.
No. No, so like chickens, for example, are the closest living relative to a dinosaur that we have. They're direct descendants of the Tyrannosaurus rex. Don't ask me for evidence. Any other type of land bird, like an ostrich, they're dinosaurs, bro. Like,
Right.
they're dinosaurs. And I have such a deep fear of birds that I'm assuming I have a deep fear of that because of dinosaurs. I don't have any evidence, but I think someone I'm related to was killed by a dinosaur, and that's why I'm scared of birds.
Now, I say crocodiles and alligators.
You sang with them? Is that what you just said to me?
I'm saying
Oh.
if they were to stand up on 2 feet, put the head
Oh,
down
yeah,
a little
definitely.
bit. It's
Well, I mean,
a
alligator
dinosaur.
is a dinosaur, too.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, why you bring this up, like, to think do you have some weird conspiracy about
I'm just
dinosaurs?
saying, like, Game of Thrones could be plausibly.
Well, that's probably how Europe was settled originally.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, right, it was just people in castles fighting. And if you keep going far back enough, eventually there weren't names for their tribes. They were just groups of people.
Right.
You're probably right. And then
We
there's
should
the
give it-
museum in Kentucky where they have all the dinosaurs that lived with people. There's the Young Earth Christian Museum in Kentucky.
Not familiar.
You're not familiar? Okay, so in case you didn't know, the Earth is 4,000 years old. All of the dinosaurs had to exist within that 4,000 years, and everyone in Kentucky lived with them for a little bit. And then they made a museum about it. And it's real. You can buy a ticket and go look at it.
Wow.
Yeah. What do you
a
think
lot
about
of
Mormons?
Mormons.
Don't hold back, because I fucking hate them. I'm sorry.
I like Keith Van Horn.
I don't even know who that is.
He used to play for the Nets.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
a
that's
Mormon.
fair. Yeah, and that's it? Is that as much as you can take from a Mormon?
I haven't had too much interaction, but hopefully I'll be going to Sundance.
Oh,
Maybe I
out
can-
in Utah,
Yeah, maybe
which
I can
is
meet
just
some.
a theocracy that our country decided to give over to them. Have you ever? Oh, actually, that's a good question. I'll stop bashing Mormons because they fucking suck. Sundance, like film festivals.
Right.
What's that culture like? Have you been to any
I
of the
haven't
big
been
ones?
to Sundance, but I've been to like Urban World in New York, and I've been to ABF in Miami. What I loved about them is like the films. It was more or less the
movies
classes and stuff that you could take, and like the state panels.
Like, is there still value in the film festival happening? Like, movies premiering at those. That was a thing.
That was a thing, and I think there's certain ones that where there's still going to be decision makers that'll come write you a check.
Like,
And that's
did
always
you
the-
see The Whale with Brendan Fraser? Everyone's hailing it because he's fat. It premiered at the Venice Film Festival with Darren Aronofsky.
Okay.
And everyone's like, this is great. Brendan Fraser's back. He's super fat. We love it. But
Yeah.
that's, to me, a movie that can't go, like, on HBO Max right away because those are just regular people. Like,
Right.
this is a movie about a really fat guy. So,
Right.
like, it needs to be for high society people. So that could only happen at a film festival.
Right. Now, once the talk gets around that it's a great movie, when it does come to HBO Max, they'll get a bunch of people to go watch it just off the
So it's
buzz.
almost like training wheels for the movie. You're going to roll it out to like all of like the losers who are going to pretend they understand it. Because it's not a good movie. He's 600 pounds. Like he's way too fat.
Oh, wow. I haven't seen that.
I mean, really fat.
Is it released already?
Yeah, it's out. Yeah, the movie's about him being a bad dad because he's fat.
Oh, wow.
And it was great, apparently. And it's called The Whale.
The Whale.
It's unbelievable. So I only bring it up because the film festival culture to me always
Right.
was like, this is ridiculously highfalutin, you know.
Yeah, a lot of them are, and there's a lot of politics behind, getting films in there. So
It's like specifically with the topics too, because like
yeah,
take your docuseries that you're working on. I can't imagine that's like news everyone wants to learn about. That's
Right.
kind of like hard and
Right.
heavy and
Yeah.
kind of almost it's sad.
Yeah.
So You got to find the right audience for that.
Right. So I think with criminal justice right now is a big topic. We have some of the lawyers, the other people that we have in there is like the lawyers when, if you remember when Kim Kardashian was talking to Trump and getting people out of jail.
Yeah, and everyone was mad at her for some reason.
Yeah,
and I'm like, what literally more could you want?
Right. So there was 2 female attorneys, African American female attorneys behind the legal work, and we interviewed one of them for the docuseries. Yeah, so we have some really interesting people on there.
So
Randy Lanier, who was in the Bad Sport, the Netflix docuseries.
Okay, yeah.
He was the car racer that was selling tons of weed that got life in prison. So we interviewed him. That was very interesting.
Have you become like pretty well versed in law now, like just through doing these types of projects?
Yeah, definitely. Especially like drug laws and laws that we know for a fact now were created out of
Joe Biden.
Exactly.
There we go.
Yeah. So a lot of these laws is like people are saying, okay, that was a mistake. So now it's like, okay, if you make a mistake and you change it, you still have to go back and fix the people that are suffering from that mistake.
You would think.
And that's where 848 comes in.
But like the process of you getting involved with all of this, you've kind of just picked up on what is and isn't all right legally.
Right.
So with all that said, do you think OJ did it?
Plead the fifth.
You're a smart guy. Kind of like one of Kevin Spacey's accusers. That's a real thing. There was one of the guys that accused Kevin Spacey. It was about to go to trial, and the guy pled the Fifth Amendment, didn't want to turn over his phone records. The guy accusing him.
Wow. So it makes it seem like it was a money grab.
Listen, Kevin Spacey's innocent. We lived with dinosaurs, is that what you think?
Bring back House of Cards.
Bring back House of Cards.
Oh, is he dead?
It doesn't matter. He's over in London. But Thomas, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. And where can everybody find you or get in touch with you?
Look me up on Instagram at tblackthewriter. You can find some of my work on Amazon Prime under Thomas Freeman Jr., Tubi, Peacock.
You're on
Yeah.
We're going all the way up.
All the way up.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Back to Kanye West.
Judging by the way this just started, I'm here with Thomas's attaché, consigliere, producer, life partner. Right? Is there anything else I missed?
Well, I'm just an executive producer, but that's my man. That's my man. That's my man.
So you were watching the interview I just did with Thomas, and you were standing off camera with some theories, right? Like O.J. Simpson innocent, dinosaurs never existed, Earth flat. Is that correct?
Well, I was watching it. Now my feelings: O.J. Simpson guilty. Dinosaurs walked Earth. I believe that.
Well, when you put it together like that, yeah. Now, what makes you think OJ did it? Because I think he didn't.
I don't know. It's just like, in my mind,
it's just a gut feeling. It was kind of what Nicole had too.
In my mind, if you look out, it went down. Like, who else would have? Who else, Yeah,
but I don't think you're considering racism.
No, I'm not considering racism. I think OJ just had enough of dude driving around in his cars, using his money, living up in his crib.
Look, you make good points.
That's the way I look at it. OJ was just like, yo.
Do you think Kanye West might commit a murder soon? Because based on what you just described,
based on what
Pete Davidson.
Kanye.
Don't say anything about.
Thinks out. It seems like he splurges, but he does really. A lot of the stuff that Kanye is saying is real.
I'm not going to co-sign any of that.
Yeah, I'm not going to get all into it, but a lot of the stuff Kanye is saying is real.
No.
Kanye crazy as fuck.
Well, listen, he is crazy, and the White Lives Matter shirt I thought was funny, and I'm guilty of intellectualizing Kanye probably way more credit than he deserves, because in my head I'll be like, what he's trying to do is comment on how these movements are but he's also probably just off his meds.
Well, I think Kanye did the White Lives Matter shirts because
He loves white girls.
knows, well, not that too.
That might be his problem, honestly.
But he also knows who's behind who came up with the Black Lives Matter shirts.
Sure.
So he's doing the switch.
And they were two lesbians who have been buying houses outside the country. I mean, that's just a fact. So
Hey, so I mean, it's Kanye's got in his mind, he really thinks that he doing some real shit.
well, of course, everyone thinks they're right in their head.
Exactly.
I've never said anything thinking I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's not true.
Yeah. Sometimes we just talk
Yeah,
shit
it's fun to
for the
just
hell
say
of it.
shit,
Yeah,
but like
But
you don't want to
Kanye, in
lose.
Kanye's mind, this is some real shit, and he feels like that he can make a change if he stands out. He feels like everybody else has tried to do what he's doing.
There's been several people throughout history that have hated Jews publicly.
Well, I'm not. I'm not even getting into the Jews part.
I mean, we're here, buddy.
I'm
so.
talking about. If you look at
The promised
Bill
land.
Cosby, you look at Michael Jordan. You look at all the things that happen when people try to start trying to build their own people.
So what I'm hearing is Dr. Cosby's innocent. I mean, legally he is.
I think he is. I mean,
legally.
No matter, all them hoes knew what they was doing. They knew what they was doing. They wasn't saying that shit once. They wasn't saying that shit once they was on stage or did whatever he was doing for them. They knew what they was doing. Man, you a celebrity. You got all kinds of money. Mm-hmm. It ain't no way in hell you gotta drug anybody to fuck you. They're gonna fuck you for free. Simple as that. You know what I'm saying? I think all them hoes is lying.
Now, do you think Cosby got out of jail because he never said anything about Jews? And that's Kanye's biggest mistake. He didn't rape anyone, but he did.
Yeah, it's a possibility. You know what I'm saying? It's a possibility.
I love to ask very reckless questions. Is there any group that you hate?
No.
That's nice.
I don't hate anyone. I don't even know what it feels like to hate.
That's genuinely a nice thing to say.
You know
That feels
what I'm
good.
saying? Nah.
How did you first link up with Thomas?
Man, it's been quite some years ago. I started in this stuff, man, in this music industry in 83, and I was doing a lot of work with Eric B and Rakim, and
Wow.
Then I was doing a lot of promotional things.
You do strike me as someone who would promote something.
I was doing a lot of promotional, events and big parties back in the day. I used to bring out the Beastie Boys and LL Cool J, a lot of Russell Simmons groups. I was there when Russell started that office. Then
he's another guy innocent, by the way.
They know what they was doing. They all know what they was doing.
That does not hold up in court,
Everybody's
though.
doing something to get something. Nobody does nothing, for free. They knew what they was doing.
Fair.
They knew what they was doing. They was trying to get to another level. However, that's why they was with him. Simple as that.
That's why I did it. I was the attackee, not the attacker. I want to be clear. Yeah.
But I think that.
So you came into with Thomas.
With Thomas, I had a group called Nicky Rap and Scratch, and they were out of Philadelphia. I put them out in 1987. I had a little label called Show Jazz Records, and the group was Nicky Rap and Scratch, and Rap and Scratch had this crazy scream. Ow! I go Rambo. Everybody across the city was hollering. DJ Chuck Chill Out. That's all you heard was the scream.
Yeah, it was like a thing.
I go Rambo. And Thomas was doing a documentary on New Jersey rappers, and they were one of the first, groups, in this area, in the Camden City area.
And you guys was just love at first sight? You both bonded over a lack of dinosaur belief?
Well, it got, we kept in contact with each other. At that time, I was staying in Florida, and we kept in contact.
Pause. Why?
Oh, man, I love Tampa.
Of course you do.
I love Florida.
Dude,
I love
Florida
Florida,
is
man.
strange. Specifically
Man,
Tampa. You know it's the swinger
love
capital
Florida.
of the country?
I like to swing.
All right. There you have it. Twist and shout. You know what I mean?
I love it.
Okay, let's skip Florida then. Back to the other story.
So anyway,
Put your tongue back in your mouth.
we kept in contact with each other, and he called me up one time, and he was talking about he's in Camden. That's where I'm actually from. Well, I'm from Cherry Hill, Camden. I mean, they're 7 minutes apart.
Depending on who's asking.
Exactly. My father had properties in Cherry Hill and Camden. I went to school, of course, in Cherry Hill because it was better education.
You don't have to explain the problems in America to me.
Exactly.
I'm clearly benefiting from them.
You know what I'm saying? So he said to me, we want to start doing some filming in Camden. He showed me some trailers of some things that they was doing, and I liked it. So I said, look, of course, everybody, they needed some money. So contact me, and
I have it.
Well, no necessarily mean I got it all the time, but I got ways of getting it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Make phone calls. I know a lot of people that.
Because one thing I took from Thomas is that he very much is like a pragmatic dude. Like he'll write a script, but then like he knows who to call and actually get the ball moving.
Exactly, and that's what he did with me, and we put the TV series called Chase Street together, and it's now on Amazon Prime and Tubi, and we're getting ready to start doing the backstories because we feel like it never got picked up with a big network, but the story, so many people every day call us about Chase Street. And I'm like, it never got picked up. But every single day we get some kind of phone call about this TV series.
Well, things find a second life in different places all the time.
Exactly. So we said, let's do a couple backstories on it. But since then, we've done several documentaries and movies together.
Wow.
So that's, Tom, we
guys seem like you have a good yin and yang. Like you're insane, and then Thomas is like practical.
Exactly. And when we're together, sometimes Thomas makes me see things that I didn't see or think a little bit. I'm like, oh yeah, you put it that way. Yeah, you could be right. Yeah. I might think something crazy, and he be like, but if you do this, what about that? You got a point there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, we really do work very well together.
You can see it. No, definitely. And I guess my last question would be, like, which one of your childhood friends had the hottest mom?
Oh, man. It was a couple moms.
It was a toss?
It was a couple moms that I wouldn't mind.
Taking to Tampa. You know what I'm saying? You get Spirit Air. We're in Florida in 2 hours.
Exactly. You know it, boy. I love Tampa. Tampa in Miami.
That's
Tampa
insane.
in Miami. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I appreciate you talking to me and telling me that you like to swing. Because that's cool.
Oh, yeah, shit.
All right. All right, man. Take care. Thank you.
All right, bro. Take it easy.